The stars looked different now. Commander Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck of Luna Station and watched the distant flickers of light that marked other worlds. 300 years of war had finally ended, and the galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus pressed his hand against the cold metal window. He was 42 years old and had spent his entire military career preparing for a war that Earth never joined. The Kythera hegemony and the Free Worlds Alliance had torn each other apart while Earth watched from the sidelines. Now both sides were gone, and Earth was alone. The doors behind him opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Sarah Sheehan walked in, carrying a datapad and looking tired. She always looked tired these days. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she spent her time studying alien signals from across the galaxy. Most of them were just static now. Any news? Marcus asked without turning around. Sarah moved to stand beside him at the window. The same as yesterday. Dead space. Empty channels. It's like someone turned off a massive radio and left only silence. Marcus nodded. He had been hearing the same reports for months. When the war ended 5 years ago, there should have been celebration, victory speeches, peace negotiations. Instead, there was nothing. Both the hegemony and the alliance had simply stopped broadcasting. Their fleets had vanished. Their worlds had gone dark. Do you think they're all dead? Marcus asked. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, the data doesn't make sense. Wars don't end like this. Someone should have survived. Someone should be rebuilding. Earth had been lucky. When humans first developed faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, they found a galaxy at war. The Kythera hegemony controlled half the known systems with an iron fist. They enslaved entire species and turned worlds into factory planets. The Free Worlds Alliance fought back with everything they had, but they were losing ground every year. Both sides had wanted Earth to join them. The hegemony sent ambassadors who promised power and protection if humans submitted to their rule. The Alliance sent diplomats who begged Earth to help fight for freedom. Earth's leaders had looked at the burning galaxy and made a choice that surprised everyone. They said no to both sides. President Martinez had made the announcement himself. Earth will not join this war, he had said. We will defend ourselves if attacked, but we will not choose between two groups that are destroying everything around them. The decision had made Earth many enemies. Hegemony fleets had tested Earth's defenses twice in the early years. Alliance commanders had called humans cowards and traitors, but Earth's leaders had held firm. They built a small but advanced fleet and fortified their solar system. They developed new weapons and shield technology. They prepared for the day when the war might come to them. That day never came. Instead, the war had simply ended, leaving Earth as one of the few untouched civilizations in the galaxy. The president wants to see us, Sarah said. Breaking Marcus from his thoughts, they walked through Luna Station's corridors together. The station was Earth's primary military base, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the moon's orbit. It housed the command center for Earth's defense force and served as the first line of defense against any threats from deep space. President Martinez was waiting for them in the briefing room along with Admiral Thompson, the head of Earth's space forces. Martinez was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been president for 8 years and had guided Earth through the final decades of the Galactic War. Sit down, Martinez said as they entered. We need to talk about what happens. Next, Marcus and Sarah took seats at the metal table. Through the room's window, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. It looked peaceful from here, safe. The war is over, Admiral Thompson said. Our long-range scouts have confirmed it. There are no active military fleets anywhere in the galaxy, no new battles. No communications between worlds. But that doesn't mean it's safe out there, Martinez added. Sarah, tell them what you found. Sarah activated her datapad and projected a star map above the table. Red dots marked former hegemony worlds. Blue dots showed Alliance territory. Most of the dots were dim, indicating no detectable activity. I've been analyzing communication patterns from the last 5 years, Sarah said. The war didn't end gradually. It didn't wind down with peace talks or surrender ceremonies. It just stopped, all at once. She manipulated the map, showing a timeline of the final months. Look at this. 300 years of constant chatter, battle reports, propaganda broadcasts, civilian communications. Then on day 0, everything goes quiet, both sides simultaneously. Marcus leaned forward. What could cause that? I don't know, Sarah admitted. But I've been detecting some strange signals from former hegemony space. They're not coming from their military or civilian channels. They're something else entirely. She played an audio file. Strange, warbling sounds filled the room. They almost, sounded like voices, but not quite human. Not quite alien either. Something in between. That's disturbing, Admiral Thompson said. Martinez stood and walked to the window. Earth survived because we stayed out of their war? But now we need to decide what we do next. Do we stay isolated forever? Do we reach out to any survivors? Do we explore the empty systems and try to rebuild? Marcus considered the options. Earth's population was now 12 billion people spread across the planet, the moon, and Mars. They had the technology and resources to expand further, but the galaxy beyond their solar system was an unknown. What about the other species? He asked. There were dozens of intelligent races involved in the war. They can't all be gone. Sarah shook her head. That's what makes this so strange. Some of the alliance races were peaceful traders and explorers. They had colonies far from the fighting. Even if their military was destroyed, their civilian populations should have survived. But there's nothing, no trade signals, no exploration, beacons, no calls for help. The room fell silent as they considered the implications. An entire galaxy had gone. Quiet, leaving Earth alone among the stars. There's something else, Sarah continued. I've been tracking the movement of ships in the final months before the silence. Most hegemony fleets were pulling back to their core worlds, but some were moving in a different direction entirely. They were heading toward something called the void sectors. Admiral Thompson frowned. Never heard of them. Neither had I until I started digging through intercepted hegemony communications. The void sectors were apparently off-limits even to them. Some kind of quarantine zone that both sides avoided during the entire war. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. And you think that's where they went? Some of them, yes. The last hegemony transmissions I can detect were moving toward that region, then nothing. President Martinez turned back to face them. We need more information before we make any decisions. Marcus, I want you to prepare a long-range reconnaissance mission. Nothing too aggressive, just a small ship with volunteers to scout the nearest former Alliance worlds. And if we find survivors? Marcus asked. Then we help them if we can. If we find threats, we run home and prepare our defenses. Sarah raised her hand. I'd like to go on that mission. As a xenobiologist, I might be able to understand what happened to the alien populations, Marcus nodded. Sarah was one of the few humans who had extensively studied alien biology and culture. If anyone could make sense of what they found, it would be her. Admiral Thompson stood. I'll start selecting crew members. We'll use the EDF Pathfinder. She's our most advanced scout ship and has the best sensors. As the meeting broke up, Marcus found himself back at the observation window. Earth looked so small and fragile against the vast darkness of space. For 30 years, that darkness had been filled with the sounds of war. Now it was empty, and somehow that felt more frightening than the battles had been. Sarah joined him at the window. Do you think we made the right choice? She asked. Staying out of the war? Marcus considered the question. Earth's cities were intact. Its people were alive and thriving. Its culture had survived while entire alien civilizations had been wiped out. But he couldn't shake the feeling that their isolation had come at a cost. I think we survived, he said finally. Whether that makes us right or just lucky, I don't know. In the distance, automated cargo ships moved between Earth and Mars, carrying supplies and people to humanity's growing colonies. Children played in the parks of New Geneva on Mars while their parents worked in the orbital factories around Jupiter. Humanity was expanding and growing, but always within the safety of their own solar system. The galaxy beyond waited in silence, holding its secrets. Soon, Marcus would lead a small group of humans into that darkness to discover what had become of the millions of worlds that had once filled space with light and noise and life. He just hoped they would live long enough to bring those answers back home. The stars looked different now, and Marcus suspected they would never look the same again. Captain Elena Vasquez floated in zero gravity, watching her crew work on the salvage ship Prospector. 5 years had passed since the galaxy went silent, and Earth had finally decided to send scavenger teams into the dead zones. Elena's ship was one of 12 vessels exploring former hegemony space, looking for technology that might help humanity understand what had happened. "Captain, we're picking up something big on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Tom Park from the navigation station. He was young, maybe 25, and this was his first deep space mission beyond Earth's solar system. Elena pushed off from the wall and drifted over to look at his screen. The display showed a massive structure about 2 hours away at their current speed. It was roughly cylindrical, maybe 10 kilometers long, and clearly artificial. "What do you think it is?" asked Dr. James Morrison, the team's technology specialist. He had been studying hegemony designs for years, trying to understand their engineering methods. Elena studied the readings. "Looks like a research station?" "Big one, too. Much larger than anything we've seen in the database." The Prospector was a small ship with a crew of 8. Besides Elena, Tom, and James, there were 5 other specialists, including a medic, 2 engineers, and 2 security officers. They had been searching dead hegemony systems for 3 months and had found plenty of abandoned outposts, but nothing this large. "Any signs of life?" Elena asked. Tom shook his head. "Negative. No power signatures, no heat sources, no communications. It's as dead as everything else we've found." Elena made her decision. "Set course for the station. We'll dock and have a look around." As they approached, the structure became more impressive. It was covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when Elena wasn't looking directly at them. The metal was dark gray, almost black, and sections of it appeared to be made from materials that didn't reflect light properly. "That's not standard hegemony construction," James said, studying the hull design. "I've never seen anything like those patterns before." Elena felt uneasy looking at the station, but she couldn't explain why. Something about it made her want to turn around and fly back to Earth as fast as possible. But they had a job to do. "Scan for a docking port," she ordered. Tom found one on the station's lower section. It was larger than normal, designed for ships much bigger than the Prospector. As they connected to the station, Elena heard strange sounds through the hull. Not mechanical sounds, but something that reminded her of whispers. "Did anyone else hear that?" she asked. Her crew looked around at each other, but no one else seemed to have noticed anything. Elena suited up along with James and 2 security officers, Rodriguez and Chun. The station's atmosphere readings were breathable, but contaminated with unknown particles. Better to stay in environmental suits. The airlock opened into a corridor that stretched in both directions. Emergency lighting provided a dim red glow, but most of the passage was lost in shadows. The walls were covered with the same strange patterns they had seen on the hull. "Power's still running in some sections," James noted, checking his scanner. "But it's not coming from any reactor I can identify." They moved deeper into the station, their footsteps echoing strangely in the empty corridors. Elena noticed that the patterns on the walls seemed to pulse very slowly, as if they were alive. "Captain," Rodriguez said, "my motion sensor is picking up movement ahead." Elena raised her hand to stop the group. They listened carefully but heard nothing. Rodriguez's scanner showed something large moving about 50 meters ahead of them. "Could be automated systems," Chun suggested. "Maybe repair robots still functioning." They continued forward more carefully. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, filled with strange equipment. Most of it looked like hegemony technology, but some pieces were clearly from other sources. Elena recognized Alliance designs and what might have been artifacts from species she had never seen before. In the center of the chamber was a large platform with a circular depression in the middle. Whatever had been placed there was gone, but Elena could see burn marks around the edges. James was scanning everything with his equipment. "Captain, you need to see this. These readings are impossible." "What do you mean?" "Some of this technology is reading as older than the hegemony itself. Much older, and look at this." He pointed to a section of wall covered with symbols. "These aren't hegemony markings. They're not from any known species in our database." Elena studied the symbols. They hurt to look at directly, as if they were moving in ways that her eyes couldn't follow properly. "How old are we talking?" she asked. "Based on material decay rates?" "Maybe 1,000,000 years, maybe more." Rodriguez was examining the central platform. "Captain, I found something. Looks like a data terminal." The terminal was still active, displaying text in hegemony script. James connected his translator device and began reading the information. "It's a research log," he said, "dated about 6 months before the galaxy went silent." Elena gathered her team around as James read from the terminal. "Research Station Void 7, final entry, Dr. Kithek recording. We have successfully activated the artifact designated as the Devourer's Eye. Initial results exceed all expectations. The device appears to be a gateway of some kind, but not to another location in our dimension." James paused, looking confused. "It gets stranger. Listen to this. The entities that emerge from the gateway are unlike anything in our biological databases. They do not appear to be made of normal matter. They consume not just physical material, but something else. Our research subjects exposed to these entities lose not just their bodies, but their minds seem to be absorbed as well." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Keep reading." "We have lost contact with research teams Alpha through Delta security. Footage shows them entering the containment area, but they never came out. The entities that emerged in their place wear their forms but move wrong. They speak with our colleagues' voices but say things that make no sense." The terminal flickered, and James had to restart the translation process. "Last entry, the situation is out of control. The entities have broken containment. They are spreading through the station. We cannot stop them. We cannot reason with them. They are not just killing us. They are becoming us. Dr. Vorthok tried to destroy the gateway, but the entities prevented him. They need it to stay open. They want more to come through. We have sent emergency signals to the Hegemony High Command, but I fear we may have doomed our entire civilization. The artifacts were never meant to be used. They were meant to be contained. We have made a terrible mistake." The log ended there. Elena's team stood in silence, processing what they had just heard. Chun was the first to speak. "So, the Hegemony found some kind of ancient artifact and activated it. Whatever came through killed them? Or worse," James said grimly. "It sounds like these things were taking over their bodies somehow." Rodriguez was scanning the chamber again. "Captain, I'm reading organic material in the lower levels of the station." "A lot of it," Elena made a decision. "We're leaving, now." As they turned to go, Tom's voice crackled over their comm system from the ship. "Captain, we've got a problem. I'm detecting movement throughout the station. Big movement. And it's heading toward your location." Elena's team broke into a run, racing back through the corridors toward their ship. Behind them, Elena could hear sounds that made her skin crawl. Not mechanical sounds, but something like breathing mixed with whispers. "Tom, prep for emergency." "Departure," she ordered over the comm. "Already done, Captain. Just get back here fast." As they reached the final corridor before the docking port, Elena looked back and saw something that would haunt her dreams for the rest of her life. Shapes were moving in the shadows behind them. They looked human at first glance, but they moved wrong, like puppets controlled by someone who had never seen a real person walk. The worst part was their faces. Elena recognized some of them from the Hegemony database. Scientists and researchers who had worked on this station. But their expressions were blank and their eyes reflected light like an animal's. "Move, move, move!" Elena shouted. They reached the airlock and sealed it behind them just as something heavy slammed into the other side. Elena could hear scratching sounds, as if claws were trying to tear through the metal. "Emergency disconnect," she ordered as soon as they were aboard. The prospector pulled away from the station just as something burst through the outer hull where their airlock had been connected. Elena caught a glimpse of it through the view screen and immediately wished she hadn't. It looked like a person, but stretched and twisted into an impossible shape. "Get us out of here," Elena ordered. "Maximum speed." As they fled, Elena watched the research station grow smaller behind them. But her relief was short-lived. Tom called out from his station with panic in his voice. "Captain, the station is powering up. Something big is coming online." Elena turned to see the entire structure beginning to glow with an eerie light. The strange patterns on its hull were pulsing faster now, and sections of the station were opening like flower petals. "What's it doing?" she asked. James was monitoring the energy readings. "It's scanning us, mapping our ship's engine signature." Elena's blood went cold. "Can it track us?" "I don't know. Maybe." As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Elena saw something emerge from the opening sections of the station. Ships, if they could be called that. They looked like they had been grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and flow. "Tom, plot a course for Earth, but don't go directly. Take us through 3 different systems first. If those things can follow us, I don't want to lead them straight home." During their week-long journey back to Earth, Elena's team studied the data they had collected. James made several disturbing discoveries. "The symbols on the station walls appear in our database," he reported. "Not in any current language files, but buried deep in the archaeological records. They match markings found in ruins on 17 different worlds. All of those ruins are estimated to be over 1,000,000 years old." Elena rubbed her tired eyes. "So this is ancient technology?" "Ancient and dangerous. Whatever civilization built those artifacts was trying to contain something, not use it. The hegemony found the containment devices and mistook them for weapons. And now those things are loose." "It gets worse," James continued. "I've been analyzing the energy signatures we detected. If I'm reading this correctly, those entities don't just consume matter. They consume information, consciousness, everything that makes a person who they are." Elena thought about the twisted figures she had seen in the station corridors. They were wearing the faces of the researchers, not wearing. They had become them, in a sense, but wrong, like someone trying to copy a painting they had never seen. When they finally reached Earth, Elena made her report directly to Commander Webb and Dr. Chun. The 2 officers listened to her account with growing alarm. "How many ships came after you?" Webb asked. "We didn't see any pursuit after the first day," Elena replied. "But that doesn't mean they gave up, just that they're taking their time." Dr. Chun was studying the data from the station. "These energy readings are unlike anything in our records. If these entities can really consume consciousness itself, then they're not just a physical threat." Elena nodded. "Commander, with respect, I think Earth needs to prepare for war. Whatever destroyed the hegemony is coming for us next." Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated his comm system. "This is Commander Webb to all Defense Force stations. Implement alert status yellow immediately. Begin preparation protocols for unknown hostile contact." As Elena left the briefing room, she looked out at Earth hanging peacefully in space. Soon, that peace would be shattered. The things she had seen on the research station were out there in the darkness, learning about humanity from the data they had scanned from her ship. Earth had avoided the Galactic War, but the war was finally coming to them. The first attack came without warning. Commander Marcus Webb was reviewing defense reports in his office when the alarm started screaming throughout Luna Station. He dropped his datapad and ran to the command center, where chaos greeted him. "Report?" he shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim was at the main tactical display, her face pale. "Unknown vessels dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 12 contacts, no response to our hails." Marcus studied the Display. The ships looked wrong, just like Captain Vasquez had described. They seemed to flow and shift, as if they were made of liquid metal instead of solid materials. How long until they reach Earth? He asked. At their current speed, 18 hours, Kim replied. Send the alert to all Defense Force ships. Scramble. The fleet. Admiral Thompson's voice came over the comm system. All civilian traffic is being diverted to the far side of Mars. Emergency shelters are being activated on Earth. Marcus watched the enemy ships on the display. They moved in perfect formation, but not like any military fleet he had ever seen. They flowed together like a school of fish, turning and adjusting course as one. Any weapon signatures? He asked. Kim shook her head. Nothing we can identify. But they're scanning everything in the system. Our ships, our stations, our planets. It's like they're learning about us. Dr. Chun arrived at the command center, carrying her research equipment. She had been working around the clock since Captain Vasquez returned with her report. Marcus, you need to see this, she said, connecting her device to the main display. I've been analyzing the energy patterns from those ships. They match the readings from the research station, but they're stronger. Now, stronger how? It's like they've been feeding, growing. Each ship has the energy signature of dozens of consumed minds. Marcus felt sick. How many people were on that research station? According to Hegemony records, about 3,000 researchers and support staff. The implications hit everyone in the command center. These 12 ships represented the absorbed consciousness of thousands of beings, twisted into something alien and hostile. EDF Defiant reports ready for engagement, came a voice over the comm. Marcus made his decision. Tell Captain Rodriguez to hold position near Mars. I want to see what these things do before we commit our forces. The wait was agonizing. Earth's Defense Force had 37 ships, ranging from small patrol vessels to the massive battlecruiser Valiant. They were well-trained and equipped with the latest technology. But they had never faced an enemy like this. Contact in 6 hours, Kim reported. Marcus spent the time reviewing everything they knew about the void touched, as Dr. Chun had started calling them. They consumed consciousness. They could take the forms of their victims. They had destroyed an entire galactic civilization. And now they were heading for Earth. Why do you think they came here? Dr. Chun asked during a brief break. Marcus considered. The question, Captain Vasquez's ship. They scanned it, learned about Earth's location. Maybe they're just following the trail. Or maybe they're hungry, Chun said grimly. When the first ships reached Mars orbit, something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking immediately, they stopped and spread out around the planet. Then they began broadcasting. We're receiving a transmission, Kim reported. It's on all frequencies. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers made everyone in the command center recoil. It sounded human, but wrong. Like several people speaking at once, their voices slightly out of sync. Greetings, inhabitants of Earth, we are the Unity. We have traveled far to reach you. We wish to share our gift. Marcus grabbed the communication controls. This is Commander Webb of Earth Defense Force. State your intentions. Our intentions are simple, Commander Webb. We wish to welcome you into our unity. You will find it peaceful. You will no longer struggle with individual thoughts and fears. You will be part of something greater. Dr. Chun was frantically working at her console. Marcus, that voice signature shows multiple overlapping patterns. It's like dozens of different people speaking the same words, the alien voice continued. We know you have encountered our research facility. We know you understand what we are. Do not fear us. We were once like you, separate, alone, afraid. Now we are together. We are complete. What happened to the original personalities? Marcus asked, though he dreaded the answer. They became us, as you will become us. Resistance. Only prolonged suffering. Marcus cut the transmission and turned to his staff. Battle stations, all ships, prepare for combat. The attack began 30 minutes later. The void-touched ships moved toward Earth in a complex pattern that seemed almost like a dance. Earth's defense fleet moved to intercept them. Captain Rodriguez. In the Defiant opened fire first. His ship's plasma cannons lit up space, striking one of the alien vessels. The energy beams hit their target, but instead of exploding, the ship seemed to absorb the energy and grow brighter. Direct hit, no effect, Rodriguez reported. The target appears to be feeding on our weapons fire. Marcus cursed under his breath. All ships, cease fire, fall back to defensive positions around Earth, but the void-touched ships had other plans. As the human fleet retreated, the aliens launched their own attack. Instead of conventional weapons, they projected beams of dark energy that passed right through ship armor without damaging it. EDF Lightning reports crew malfunctions, came an urgent transmission. Half the crew has stopped responding to orders. Marcus watched in horror as the Lightning began to change course, moving to join the alien formation. More reports came in, from other ships experiencing the same problem. It's the consciousness beams, Dr. Chun realized. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're trying to take over our crews. All ships, implement Protocol 7, Marcus ordered. Seal all sections, activate emergency life support. Protocol 7 was a last resort measure that isolated each crew member in their own compartment. It would make the ships harder to operate, but it might protect the crews from whatever the aliens were doing. The strategy worked, but only partially. Ships that implemented the protocol quickly enough remained under human control. But 3 vessels had already been compromised, their crews absorbed into the alien unity. "We need a new strategy," Admiral Thompson said, arriving at the command center. "Conventional weapons are useless, and they can turn our people against us." Marcus studied the tactical display. The alien ships were maintaining their position, not pressing their attack. It was as if they were waiting for something. "Dr. Chun, what would happen if we used nuclear weapons against them?" Chun ran calculations on her console. "Based on their energy absorption capabilities, they might actually grow stronger. We could be feeding them." Then Lieutenant Park, who had been monitoring communications, made an announcement that changed everything. "Commander, I'm detecting massive energy buildup from all the alien ships. They're preparing for something big?" On the display, the 12 void-touched vessels began to glow with increasing intensity. Energy arced between them, forming a complex pattern in space. "They're creating some kind of gateway," Dr. Chun said, studying the readings. "Just like at the research station." Marcus realized what was happening. "They're trying to bring more of their kind through. We have to stop them." "How? Our weapons don't work against them." Marcus looked at the display showing Earth's orbital defenses. Weapons platforms, shield generators, and something else. The old mining laser array that had been used to hollow out asteroids for construction projects. The mining lasers. They're not military weapons. They're industrial tools designed to cut through rock and metal. "You think they might work differently?" Admiral Thompson asked. "Only one way to find out. All orbital platforms target the mining lasers at the alien formation, full power." The massive industrial lasers fired simultaneously, sending beams of concentrated energy toward the void-touched ships. Unlike the military weapons, these beams seemed to have an effect. The alien vessels flickered and wavered, their flowing forms becoming less stable. "It's working," Kim shouted. Their formation is breaking up, but the victory was short-lived. The aliens adapted quickly, adjusting their energy patterns to resist the mining lasers. Within minutes, they had resumed their gateway construction. "New contacts," Park announced. "Something's coming through." Space itself seemed to tear open near the alien formation. Through the rift, Marcus could see more ships emerging. These were larger than the first wave, and they carried energy signatures that made the sensors scream warnings. "How many?" Marcus asked. "At least 50 new contacts, maybe more. The rift is expanding. Earth's small defense fleet was already outnumbered. Now they faced an invasion force that could grow indefinitely as long as the gateway remained open." "Admiral, recommend we evacuate the orbital stations," Marcus said. "Fall back to planetary defense grid." "Agreed. All non-essential personnel to the surface." As Luna Station began its emergency evacuation, Dr. Chen made a discovery that offered a glimmer of hope. Marcus, I've been analyzing the energy patterns around Earth. There's something strange. The planet itself seems to be generating some kind of interference field. What do you mean? The alien ships are maintaining distance from Earth's surface. They're not getting closer than about 50,000 kilometers. It's like something is keeping them away. Marcus looked at the tactical display again. Chun was right. The void-touch ships were maintaining a perfect sphere around Earth, never crossing into the lower orbital zone. Could it be our magnetic field? Some kind of natural defense? I don't think so. This is something else, something artificial. Before Chun could explain further, new alarms began sounding. The gateway in space was fully open now, and massive structures were beginning to emerge. Not ships this time, but something that looked like floating cities made of the same flowing material as the alien vessels. They're not just bringing ships? Admiral Thompson observed. They're bringing their civilization. Marcus made a command decision that would have seemed impossible just hours before. All remaining ships, full retreat to Earth's surface. We're going to make our stand in the atmosphere. As Earth's defense fleet fell back toward their home planet, the void-touched followed, but only to the edge of that mysterious barrier that seemed to protect Earth's immediate vicinity. Why aren't they following us? Kim asked. Dr. Chun was working frantically at her console, scanning the space around Earth with every sensor at her disposal. I think I know why. There's a pattern in the magnetic field in the gravitational readings. Even in the background radiation, it's artificial. Very old, but artificial. What are you saying? I'm saying Earth isn't just a planet. It's been modified, protected by something that knew this day would come. Marcus stared at the display showing the alien fleet hovering just beyond Earth's mysterious protective boundary. His small force of human ships hung in the space between the planet and its would-be conquerors. How long will this barrier hold? He asked. Chun's answer chilled him to the bone. I don't know. But based on the energy readings, the aliens are already working to break through it. Outside, in the darkness of space, dozens of void-touched vessels were arranged in complex patterns around Earth. They pulsed with absorbed consciousness from a dozen dead civilizations, and they had only one goal: Earth would fall, just like all the others. The only question was how long the ancient barrier would hold, and whether humanity could find a way to fight back before it was too late. The hunt had begun. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the underground laboratory beneath Mount Everest, staring at readings that challenged everything she thought she knew about Earth. For 3 days, the void-touched had been pressing against the mysterious barrier that protected their planet. The barrier was holding, but Chun's instruments showed it was weakening. The energy signature is definitely artificial, she told Commander Webb over the comlink. But it's old, Marcus. Older than human civilization. Older than the dinosaurs. Above ground, Webb was coordinating Earth's desperate defense from a bunker in Colorado. The alien fleet had grown to over 200 ships, all waiting just beyond the barrier like hungry wolves circling a campfire. How old are we talking about? Webb asked. Chen looked at her calculations again, hardly believing them herself. Best estimate? About 65 million years. The number hung in the air between them. 65 million years ago, Earth had been a very different place. The continents were in different positions. The climate was warmer. And apparently someone had been here to build a massive defense system. There's more, Chun continued. I've been scanning the moon, and it's not natural either. The core density is all wrong. It's hollow in places, and those hollow sections are filled with the same energy patterns as the barrier. Webb was quiet for a moment. Chen could hear distant explosions through his comlink as the aliens tested the barrier's strength with their weapons. Are you telling me the moon is some kind of machine? He asked finally. Not just a machine, it's the control center. The entire lunar core has been converted into a massive computer system. And Marcus, it's been sending signals. What kind of signals? Chun pulled up the data on her screen. Warning beacons. For millions of years, the moon has been broadcasting a message to the galaxy. It's in dozens of different languages, most of them extinct. The basic message is always the same. Stay away from this system. Quarantine zone, danger. Webb understood immediately. That's why the Galactic War never came to Earth. Other species knew to avoid us. Exactly. But the hegemony's tampering with ancient artifacts must have disrupted the beacon network. The warnings stopped working, and now the void touched have found us. A new voice joined the conversation. President Martinez was in the same bunker as Webb, coordinating the global response to the crisis. Dr. Chun, can you activate this defense system? Use it to fight back? Chun looked at the massive chamber around her. The walls were covered with symbols that hurt to look at directly, just like the ones Captain Vasquez had found on the research station, but these symbols were different somehow, older, more complex. I think so, she said, but there's a problem. The system requires a neural interface. Someone has to connect directly to the lunar control center. What would that involve? Webb asked. Chun hesitated. She had been studying the interface requirements for hours, and the implications were terrifying. The system was designed for the species that built it. Their brains were different from ours, larger, more complex. For a human to interface with, it would require ... changes. What kind of changes? The kind that might not be reversible. The neural pathways would have to be restructured, enhanced. The person might not be human anymore when it's finished. Above ground, alarms began sounding as the alien fleet launched another coordinated attack on the barrier. This time, the energy discharges were visible from Earth's surface as brilliant flashes of light in the sky. The barrier won't hold much longer, came a report from the orbital monitoring station. Maybe 6 hours at current degradation rates. Chun made her decision. I'm going to the moon. If someone has to make the connection, it should be me. I understand the science better than anyone. Absolutely not, Webb said firmly. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Marcus. Look at the readings. The barrier is failing. In 6 hours, those things will be free to consume every human on Earth. President Martinez's voice cut through the argument. Dr. Chun, what would happen if you successfully connect to the system? Chun looked at the data projections she had been running. Best case scenario, I gain control of the defense grid and can drive off the void touched. Worst case, I lose my humanity completely and become something else. And if we do nothing, humanity dies, all of it. The void touched will absorb every consciousness on Earth and use our bodies to spread to other worlds. The decision was made within an hour. Chun would take a small shuttle to the moon and attempt to interface with the ancient control system. Webb insisted on coming with her, along with a small team of technicians and security personnel. The journey to the moon took 8 hours, and with each passing minute, the barrier around Earth grew weaker. By the time they reached lunar orbit, entire sections of the energy field were flickering. Where exactly are we going? Webb asked as their shuttle approached the moon's surface. Chun guided them toward a crater on the far side that her scans had identified as the primary access point. The entrance should be about 2 kilometers down. The original builders disguised it well. They landed near the crater's edge and descended on foot, following Chun's scanner readings. The entrance, when they found it, was almost invisible. Section of rock that looked exactly like everything around it, but opened at Chun's touch. Inside, the tunnels were clearly artificial. The walls were smooth and covered with the same painful symbols they had seen before. Emergency lighting activated as they walked, creating a path deeper into the moon's core. How far down does this go? Asked Sergeant Williams, one of the security team members. All the way to the center, Chun replied. The entire core has been hollowed out and converted. They walked for 2 hours through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Finally, they emerged into a chamber so vast that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. In the center was a structure that defied description. It looked like a tree made of crystal and metal, with thousands of branching pathways that pulsed with soft light. That's the interface, Chun said, checking her readings. The neural connection point is at the base. As they approached the structure, Chun's instruments began detecting massive energy flows throughout the moon. The entire satellite was coming alive, responding to their presence. "Sarah," Webb said quietly, "are you sure about this?" June looked at her friend and colleague. Webb had been like a brother to her for years. After today, she might not even remember who he was. "The void touched aren't just going to stop with Earth," she said. "If they break through here, they'll spread throughout the galaxy. Every world that survived the war will fall. This is the only way to stop them." She approached the base of the crystal tree and found what looked like a chair, but made from the same flowing material as the void-touched ships. As she sat down, tendrils of energy began reaching toward her. "Wait," Webb sighed. "There has to be another way. What if we evacuate Earth? Find another planet?" Chun shook her head. "They'd follow us. They have our scent now. Besides, look around you, Marcus. This place wasn't built just to protect Earth. It was built to contain something. The void-touched aren't invaders, they're escapees." The tendrils touched Chun's head, and immediately she gasped as information flooded her mind. Images of the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. Advanced civilizations working together to build a prison for something that threatened all life. The void-touched weren't just another species. They were something older, something that had existed before matter and energy took their current forms. "Sarah, what's happening?" Webb asked, but his voice seemed to be coming from very far away. Chun could see the entire solar system now, not with her eyes but with senses she had never possessed before. Earth wasn't just protected by the barrier. It was the lock on a vast cosmic prison. The void-touched had been contained here for millions of years, trapped in dimensions that overlapped with normal space. The hegemony's experiments had weakened the prison walls. Each artifact they had activated had created tiny cracks. Eventually, the void-touched had escaped through those cracks and consumed the galaxy's civilizations. Now they were trying to break the main prison open and free the rest of their kind. "I can see them," Chun said, her voice changing as the neural interface rewrote her brain. "Not just the ships outside Earth, the ones that are still trapped. Billions of them, waiting in the spaces between dimensions." Webb grabbed her shoulder. "Sarah, fight it. Stay human." But Chin was already beyond human. She could feel her consciousness expanding, connecting to systems throughout the solar system. The asteroid belt wasn't natural either. It was a surveillance network. Jupiter's moons were weapons platforms. The entire solar system was a fortress designed to contain the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. "I understand now," she said, standing up from the interface chair. When she turned to face Webb, her eyes were glowing with the same energy that powered the ancient systems. The species that built this prison knew they couldn't destroy the void-touched. These entities exist partially outside normal reality, so they built a cage instead. Earth became the guardian world, the key that kept the prison locked. "And now?" Webb asked. Chun raised her hand, and displays materialized in the air around them, showing the battle above. The void-touched fleet was making its final assault on the barrier, but now Chun could do more than just watch. "Now I can fight back," she said, throughout the solar system. Ancient weapons began powering up for the first time in millions of years. Hidden platforms in the asteroid belt opened fire with energy beams that could punch through space itself. Jupiter's moons launched swarms of self-replicating hunter drones. Saturn's rings reconfigured themselves into a massive communications array, but the real surprise came from Earth itself. The planet's core contained the largest weapon of all, a device that could tear holes in the fabric of reality. As Chin activated it, space around the void-touched fleet began to warp and twist. "You're sending them back to prison," Webb realized. "Not just them," Chun said sadly. "All of them. Every void-touched entity in this galaxy. But the prison has to be locked from the inside." Webb understood what she meant. "You're going with them. Someone has to maintain the lock. Someone has to watch over the prison." The original builders knew this day would come. They left instructions, protocols for when the system needed a new guardian. The battle above Earth was ending. One by one, the void-touched ships were being pulled into dimensional rifts that led back to their prison. But Chin was changing too, becoming something that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. "I'll still be here," she told Webb. "Part of me will always be watching over Earth, but the part of me that was human, that part has to go with them." Webb watched his friend transform into something beautiful and terrible, a being of pure energy and consciousness that could stand guard over the cosmic prison for millions of years. "Will we ever see you again?" he asked. Chun smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human again. "When humanity is ready to become guardians themselves, I'll be waiting. But that's a long way off." The last of the void-touched ships vanished into the dimensional rift. The galaxy was safe, but the price had been higher than anyone could have imagined. Earth remained free, but it would never be truly alone again. 10 years had passed since the day the galaxy went silent again, but this time the silence was different. It was peaceful. Commander Marcus Webb, now Admiral Webb, stood on the bridge of the EDF horizon, watching a fleet of human ships approach. The ruined world of Kithara Prime, the former capital of the hegemony, was still scarred from the void-touched attack, but life was returning to its cities. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," reported Captain Torres, who had been Webb's aide during the dark days of the invasion. "Put it through," Webb said. The holographic display showed a Kithara female with the distinctive blue skin and 4 arms of her species. She looked tired but hopeful. "Admiral Webb, this is Governor Thesick. The reconstruction of the eastern continent is complete. We're ready to begin resettling the survivors from the outer colonies." Webb nodded. "Excellent work, Governor. The supply ships will arrive next week with the medical equipment you requested." It had taken years to find the survivors scattered across the galaxy. The void touched had consumed the major populations, but many smaller colonies and research outposts had hidden when the attacks began. Slowly, carefully, Earth's ships had been bringing them home. The process was dangerous. Some of the survivors had been exposed to void-touched influence and carried traces of the entities in their minds. Earth's medical teams, working with technology salvaged from the ancient lunar systems, had developed ways to cleanse these infections, but it required constant vigilance. "Any word from Dr. Chung?" Governor Thesick asked. Webb looked up at the moon, visible through the ship's main window even from this distance. "She's still there, still watching." That wasn't entirely true. The woman who had been Sarah Chun was gone, transformed into something far greater and more terrible. But the presence that had taken her place communicated with Earth regularly, sending guidance and warnings through the ancient communication systems. The new Sarah Chun existed in multiple dimensions at once, able to see threats that normal beings couldn't detect. She had become the galaxy's guardian, hunting down any remaining void-touched entities that had escaped the Great Cleansing. "Admiral," came another voice over the COM system. This one was human, broadcasting from Earth. "This is Director Park. We're ready for your report." Webb activated the secure channel. Director Park had been Lieutenant Park during the invasion, but he now headed Earth's Department of Galactic Affairs. The young man had aged quickly under the weight of responsibility. "The Kithara resettlement is proceeding on schedule," Webb reported. "No signs of void-touched contamination in the new population centers. The Alliance worlds are showing similar progress. And the search for other survivors? We've identified 17 more worlds with possible human-level intelligence. First contact protocols are being prepared." Webb didn't mention how strange it felt to be on the other side of first contact now. Before the invasion, humanity had been the newcomers to galactic civilization. Now they were the ones with advanced technology and spacefaring capability, helping primitive species rebuild their worlds. The transformation hadn't been limited to Sarah Chun. Exposure to the ancient lunar technology had changed all of humanity. In subtle ways, human children born after the invasion showed enhanced problem-solving abilities and an intuitive understanding of dimensional physics. They could see patterns in space and time that their parents missed. "What about the new generation?" Park asked, as if reading Webb's thoughts. "They're adapting well to the hybrid technology. The youngest ones seem to understand the ancient systems better than we do." This was both encouraging and disturbing. The children could operate Kithara computers by touch, communicate with Alliance AI systems through direct neural interface, and repair technology using methods that defied conventional engineering. They were becoming something new, something that bridged the gap between humanity and the cosmic forces they now served. "Admiral Webb," came a new voice, transmitted directly into his mind rather than through the ship's communication system. It was Sarah Chun, or what she had become. "I'm here," Webb replied, speaking aloud. His crew was used to these one-sided conversations by now. 3 more void-touched entities have been detected in the Andromeda Galaxy. They're small, probably fragments that escaped during the containment. I'm going to hunt them down. How long will you be gone? Time moves differently. Where I go now? From your perspective, maybe a few days. From mine, it could be centuries. Webb felt the familiar sadness that came with these conversations. Sarah was still there, somewhere inside the Cosmic Guardian, but she was becoming more distant with each passing year. Any other threats we should know about? The prison is holding, but it won't last forever. Eventually, humanity will need to take over completely. The children you're raising now will be the first generation capable of that responsibility. And until then, I hunt, I protect. The connection faded, leaving Webb alone with his thoughts. Around him, his crew continued their work of rebuilding the galaxy. But Webb often wondered if they truly understood what they had become. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was the center of a galactic civilization that spanned dozens of species and hundreds of worlds. But it was also a prison, and every human alive was now part of the guard force, whether they knew it or not. "Admiral," Captain Torres said, interrupting his thoughts, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the exploration fleet. They've found something." Webb turned his attention to the new communication. Captain Elena Vasquez appeared on the display, broadcasting from the bridge of her new ship, the EDF Discovery. She had volunteered to lead humanity's expansion into the unknown regions of the galaxy, searching for survivors and new threats. "Admiral, we've discovered something incredible," Vasquez said, excitement clear in her voice. "It's another prison system, but this one is different, older, and it's still active." Webb felt a chill run down his spine. "Explain." "We found it. In the Magellanic Clouds. A triple star system that's been artificially modified. The whole thing is a containment facility, but not for the void-touched, something else. Something that the ancient builders were afraid of even before they encountered the entities we fought." The implications hit Webb immediately. The species that had built Earth's prison system hadn't just been fighting one enemy. They had been waging a cosmic war against multiple threats, building prisons throughout the galaxy to contain different types of dangerous entities. "Are there any signs of the builders themselves?" Webb asked. "Negative, just automated systems and a message buoy. We've translated part of it. It's a warning about something called the Devourers of Stars. And, Admiral, the message is addressed to whoever inherits the prison network." "Meaning us." U.S. Webb closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. Humanity had avoided one galactic war only to discover they were now responsible for fighting a much larger conflict that had been raging for millions of years. "Send me all the data," he ordered, "and prepare for an extended mission. We need to map every prison system in our galaxy and beyond." Over the following months, the scope of humanity's inheritance became clear. The ancient builders had created dozens of prison systems, each containing different types of cosmic threats. Some held entities like the void-touched that consumed consciousness. Others contained beings that fed on stellar energy, gradually draining stars until they collapsed. Still, others imprisoned creatures that existed in time rather than space, able to rewrite history itself. All of these prisons were now humanity's responsibility. The knowledge changed human society in fundamental ways. Earth's government restructured itself into the Cosmic Defense Council, with representatives from every major world and species. Children were educated from birth about their role as galactic guardians. Advanced humans like the post-invasion generation were trained to interface with the ancient prison systems, but perhaps the most significant change was in how humanity saw itself. They were no longer just another species trying to survive in a hostile universe. They were the inheritors of a cosmic responsibility that stretched back millions of years. Sometimes I wonder if this is what the ancient builders intended, Webb said during one of his conversations with the transformed Sarah Chun. Did they plan for their successors to be human? I don't think they cared what species took over, Sarah replied, her voice now carrying harmonics that hurt to hear directly. They just needed someone capable of growth, someone who could adapt and survive. And if we fail, then the galaxy dies? All life dies. The things we're keeping locked away don't just threaten individual worlds or species. They threaten the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Webb looked out at the stars, each one now representing not just a distant sun but a potential battleground in humanity's endless war against cosmic chaos. 50 years after the first void-touched attack, humanity had spread to over 1,000 worlds. Their technology had advanced beyond anything the hegemony or alliance had ever achieved. They could travel between galaxies, communicate across dimensions, and fight enemies that existed outside normal space and time, but they were no longer quite human in the way their ancestors had been. Each generation was more adapted to their cosmic role, more capable of understanding and maintaining the ancient prison systems. They were becoming something new, something that could stand guard over the universe itself, Webb, now ancient by human standards but kept alive by technology that transcended biology, often thought about the price they had paid for their victory. Earth had avoided the Galactic War, but in the end, they had inherited a much larger conflict. Humanity had saved the galaxy by becoming its eternal guardians, ensuring that the horrors imprisoned by the ancients would never again threaten the living universe. They had gained unimaginable power and responsibility, but they had also lost their innocence and their chance to simply exist as one species among many. In the end, Earth's isolation had never been about avoiding conflict. It had been about preparing for the greatest war of all, a war that would never truly end as long as there were threats to contain and civilizations to protect. The stars looked different now, Webb thought, as he had so many years ago. But now he understood why. They weren't just distant suns anymore. They were lights that humanity had sworn to keep burning, no matter the cost to themselves. In the darkness between the stars, Sarah Chun continued her eternal hunt, no longer human, but still carrying the essence of the woman who had chosen to sacrifice everything for the survival of others. And in the hidden depths of space, the ancient prisons held their cosmic prisoners, maintained by a species that had never asked for such responsibility, but had accepted it anyway. Humanity had avoided the conflict between the hegemony and the alliance, but they had found something far greater and more terrible, waiting for them in the silence that followed. They had found their destiny.